What are some things that people should look out for in once they go to contract, or maybe some pitfalls or some deal killers that you see in recently?
I would say looking back at the whole career, some of the biggest issues I've actually had are related to the city of Chicago. I've had a lot of issues with legality of units. As you guys know, there's a lot of housing stock that has, garden units and, attic units. And there's really at least I've never really found any rhyme or reason why one might be legal and the other won't, might not be. It's just kind of dates back to when the city did their record keeping. It actually happened in 1956. They changed the zoning code, and that's when you kind of got locked into how many units you had. And as you guys both know, the city government is not the most organized of places. So a lot of times it's very difficult to figure out what the actual records are. No one really wants to sort of represent anything down there, as they don't want to get in trouble. So, I mean, some of the biggest issues I've had were zoning related, unit count related. So I think just double checking that stuff is very important. I've seen times where, if that wasn't checked on, they might have issues with the city later when pulling permits, and city comes back and says, no, this isn't a legal unit. And typically, you can work through it. There's ways around it, but that costs time, energy, and money. And that's something that I would always have everyone double check, is kind of look at city records, make sure you know what you're buying. And typically your attorney kind of covers that too when doing a deal. But that's probably overall been some of the bigger, issues that are sort of outside of our control. I think from a building, actual physical aspect of the property, anytime you see structural issues, that tends to, throw a wrench into deals. But I think, at least from a brokerage perspective, on the middle market multifamily, a lot of the people we do, myself and guys in my company do business with are experienced investors. They know what they're looking for. Typically they'll bring their contractors with to kind of keep an eye out on things and make sure everything's good from a structural perspective. But yeah, I mean, those are typically some of the big ones. I mean, occasionally you'll have, two attorneys that don't get along, and you have several people involved in a transaction. It's not always guaranteed that everyone's going to get along well and it'll be a smooth process. So, I mean, those are to name a few over the years that I've come across to maybe make the transaction more difficult from that perspective to get it through the finish line. So.